Hi, I'm Zeus Caravallo from ZK Research, and I'm here on site at the AWS reInvent Expo Hall. Now, the ecosystem around AWS is massive, and there's too many companies here to cover. So I'm going to do a walk around and go find 5 companies that I think are pretty interesting and doing some cool stuff with AWS. So let's go in the Expo Hall, let's go take a look, and I hope you enjoy the video. So I'm here now at the Veeam booth with Sam Nichols, who's the Director of Public Cloud for Veeam. I think most people that know you as a backup and recovery company, but you're actually much more than that. So can you give us just a rundown on who Veeam is, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when folks think about Veeam, they think about VMware backup and recovery. We still do backup and recovery, but it's for much more than just VMware. Other virtualized workloads, other workloads on premises, including physical servers, enterprise applications. And then of course, we're here at AWS reInvent, so cloud-hosted workloads as well.
Yeah, so we are at reInvent, as you said, and why do I need backup and recovery for AWS though? Doesn't everybody tells me the cloud's secure? Doesn't it back itself up as well?
The cloud doesn't actually back itself up. You can build native durability aligned with well-architected frameworks within the cloud, but that's still based on replication, right? So if that source data were to be corrupted, if there were to be a cybersecurity event, that's just simply going to be replicated over to the target data, so you need that independent copy, and that is your backup, right? And it is the user's responsibility to protect their data within AWS and other clouds.
Yeah, and I think and I asked that a little tongue-in-cheek, I think that's one of the big myths in the industry. People think that just because they use cloud, there will be a backup copy of it somewhere, but I think almost every cloud provider, be it SaaS or IaaS or PaaS, actually does try and get the vendor to take the customer to take care of it themselves, correct?
Yes. You bring up a really good point, because there is varying degrees of responsibility that is being transitioned to the cloud provider as you go from IaaS to PaaS to SaaS. But the one thing that holds true is that it is your information and data, and it is always your responsibility to protect and secure them.
Okay, and you're showing specifically here Veeam Backup for AWS. How easy is this to use if you're an AWS customer, for them to be able to adopt this? Relatively straightforward?
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly easy to implement. You can just go to the AWS Marketplace. We actually have a free edition on the AWS Marketplace that you can use to protect 10 instances. Within 5-10 minutes, you can be set up and running and protecting your workloads, including EC2, RDS, EFS, as well as your VPCs. Okay, and I noticed one of the other screens, you were talking about Kubernetes. And I know during Adam's keynote this morning, he talked a lot about, well, not a lot. He did bring up containers and what they're doing in Kubernetes, and I do know that's a big focus area for them going forward. So can you just double click on what you're doing in that area? Yeah, absolutely. The transition and the trend towards Kubernetes is obviously huge. There's lots of folks adopting it, especially in the enterprise space, and including in the cloud. So we look at AWS, we're talking about Elastic Kubernetes Service, Elastic Container Service, EKS, ECS, and Kubernetes workloads need protection as well that is native to Kubernetes environments for backup, restore, disaster recovery. But the other thing is application mobility, being able to move applications across different Kubernetes environments, whether that's on premises or in the cloud.
Yeah, and you did start off talking about what you do with virtual machines, and I know you do a lot of VM backup in the AWS cloud. But Kubernetes and containers poses a bit of a different challenge because they're very ephemeral, right? Unlike a virtual machine, which just kind of lives forever. Right, you can run containers for very short periods of time, and so I'm guessing that. Can you describe sort of the difference in complexity when dealing with Kubernetes versus your traditional VMware environment?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not just Kubernetes; it's other cloud-hosted workloads as well. Yeah. Like it's a huge trend towards microservices and serverless applications. So we're looking at functions as a service that, like you say, are very ephemeral, that are spun up for a short period of time and then spun down. The protection for that component isn't necessarily as important as the protection of the reference data that is powering that application. So things like a database, a file system, or data that's stored in object storage, all of that absolutely needs to be protected. But coming back to the Kubernetes component, again, just the way that Kubernetes operates and works is so wildly different to VMware, physical machines, that we need something that's native, purpose-built for Kubernetes to get that best-in-class protection, especially something that is application-aware.
All right, thanks, Sam. And so if somebody wants to learn more about you guys, you said go to the marketplace?
Yeah, you can go to veeam.com or head over to the AWS Marketplace. We've got multiple free offerings there, so you can get out, try it, no time limits, and for AWS specifically, up to 10 instances for free.
All right, well thanks, appreciate the time. All right, well I'm at the Red Hat stand now with Stuart Miniman. Stu, you're a former analyst, former Kubernetes alum, you've been doing everything, so now you're a Red Hat. And Red Hat's an interesting company. You know, I've known of Red Hat for a long time, but when most people think of Red Hat, well, they think of the Red Hat, but they think of the Linux company, but you're actually much more than that, correct?
Yeah, Zeus, thank you. It's great to see you. It's always nice when a couple of Boston area people have to fly to Las Vegas to see each other, as opposed to bumping into each other.
Well, you're all the way down 495. So.
But yeah, exactly. So. Right, I've worked with Red Hat for over 20 years, and you're right, they started out as a Linux company, but we do much more than Linux now. Of course, we're here at AWS reInvent. We have a deep partnership with the Linux activity, with what we do with Ansible and our automation, and the group that I'm in, which is our cloud group, so OpenShift is what I'm here talking about mostly.
And what is OpenShift?
So OpenShift is our Kubernetes offering, but it's Kubernetes and a lot more. And with AWS, we actually launched a year and a half ago a first-party cloud offering, Red Hat OpenShift service, on AWS. So it's actually in console, jointly engineered, jointly supported, and we work with the same engineering team at Amazon that does things like ECS and EKS and Fargate and the like. So Kubernetes is an application development platform, and OpenShift really is the leader in that space.
And I know this morning, I don't know if you saw Adam's keynote or not, but he talked a lot about, well, not a lot, maybe we should have talked more about, but he did talk about Kubernetes and how important that was to AWS and the growth, and you know, clearly that's the future, right? But it's not, Kubernetes isn't exactly plug and play either, right? So what kind of challenges does that bring?
Yeah, so the cloud native landscape, Zeus, is really complex, and that's really where Red Hat thrives. We live in the open source communities. We take, you know, the hundreds of projects that are out there, we help curate, integrate, and manage that for you. So our offering is a manager cloud service with AWS, where we have a site reliability engineering team that manages that for you. So as a customer, I never need to manage underneath the API. So actually, hopefully in the future, we don't need to talk that much about Kubernetes. We want to talk about your data and your applications and the use case, and that's actually what we're talking a bit about this year, is we've added to the AWS Marketplace some of those accelerators and things that can sit on top of what you're doing with Kubernetes to accelerate what you're doing in data science and modern databases and many other things, streaming services on top of Kubernetes itself.
So when I think of cloud native app design, I think of, I get a visual of a box of Legos that somebody throws out there, and you got to assemble all the stuff yourself, and some people like doing that, but more and more, I'm hearing from customers that they really don't want to do that anymore, right?
Yeah, so such a great point. If I think, you know, you and I remember like the PaaS discussions we had for years, and unfortunately it's a really narrow landscape of 12-factor apps was like the only thing that you live there. So containers and Kubernetes is a really broad platform. So yeah, we can have some really cool new data applications. We can do 12-factor apps. We can do more traditional applications. It's a broad platform, and you're right, enterprises want to buy solutions, and that's what we help deliver, not just a tool, but a solution offering where we take care of much of the infrastructure so the customers can worry about as you know, the things that are important to their business.
So you're actually masking a lot of that complexity.
Yeah, that's the idea, and it is a complicated space, so I'd like to say it's the easy button and everything's good. We still need to understand architecturally what we're doing, but absolutely we overly, you know, move customers along and help them accelerate their adoption of those technologies so that they can focus on what they need, which is their businesses, their data, what their customers are asking them for, not having to spend, you know, too much time down in the weeds, understanding the thing that we've got lots of experts.
Yeah, and I do think through this digital transformation era, companies have really tried to stop spending all the time in the weeds. Well, speed's one of the things that changed that.
Absolutely, we want to think innovation and speed is what we want to accelerate.
So sort of people want to learn more about Red Hat and the stuff you're doing with AWS, where should they go?
Yeah, of course, redhat.com or cloud.redhat.com is where you'll find a lot of the OpenShift stuff that I had. Or if you're an AWS customer, you just go to AWS, and if you look up ROSA, which is Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS, that's one of the services in the console, and in the cloud marketplace you'll find a lot of those, and absolutely reach out to Red Hat if we can help.
All right, well Stuart, fellow Boston person here, thanks for joining me today.
All right, Zeus, great seeing you.
Thanks. Okay, I'm here now at the Fortinet booth inside the AWS Expo area, and I'm joined by Vince Wang from Fortinet. And Vince, how you doing? You're Fortinet's at the show. Can you tell me a little bit about the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fortinet protects some of the largest enterprises across the globe, and we have a full range of solutions that cover everything from network to cloud to zero trust.
Yeah, massive company. I think really good story, around the platform, and I'll ask you a bit about that later. But I know at the show, Fortinet announced its cloud native firewall, and so can you tell me a little bit about that and what it does for AWS customers?
Absolutely. So one of the things we've done is we're extending our Fabric solutions into the cloud and providing an easier way for customers to secure and operationalize their cloud. Our latest example here is with Cloud Native Firewall, and we do three things. One is we make it easier for customers to offload the network infrastructure so they don't have to worry about managing, operating, or deploying their own infrastructure. Two, we're actually simplifying the way that they operate and manage their security policies by delivering a dynamic object-based policy set that they can use metadata-based policies to then protect versus looking at network addresses, which overall simplifies things. And three, we streamline the workflow because we work and integrate with AWS Firewall Manager. They choose to use the AWS Management Console. They can seamlessly manage their firewalls through that. But also many customers are hybrid cloud customers, and they extend our Fabric ecosystem so they can have a consistent policy regardless of whether they use our physical firewall, our virtual firewall, or our cloud native firewall.
Yeah, and so if I were to ask you why a customer, like AWS has its own firewalls, they talk a lot about the security of their cloud. What are the gaps that you're filling with this that you're not going to get with the native AWS?
Absolutely. So I think it comes down to customer choices. When customers need a more robust set of security policies, a more robust firewall with advanced security features and protection, that's when they go and switch to over something like Fortinet Cloud Native Firewall or Fortinet FortiGate Cloud Native Firewall, FortiGate solution set from Fortinet.
Yeah, and I know this is an AWS show, but I'm going to use the M word, which is multi-cloud. I assume the other value here is if a customer did want to look at using multiple cloud providers, then extending the Fortinet Fabric is pretty easy to do with your product. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the beauty of this is it's built on the same technology that we have with our FortiGate appliances, which is very market leading. We have it on virtual appliances that can deploy into the private cloud and public cloud. And then with our FortiGate Cloud Native Firewall, all that stuff is manageable by our Fabric ecosystem, our FortiManager. So you have consistent policies, consistent visibility, and really streamlined security operations overall, regardless of whether you're on that multi-cloud or a single cloud or just AWS.
So if I'm looking at the graphic here then, whether I'm doing on-prem, cloud, however I want to deploy it, it's one kind of security fabric that spans all those different locations.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%.
All right, well thanks. If people want to learn more about your CNF, where should they go?
They should go to Fortinet.com, look for FortiGate Cloud Native Firewall, FortiGate CNF.
And I'll include that link in the YouTube description. All right, well thanks.
Thank you so much, really appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm here now at the Cisco stand with Vish from Cisco. Yes. Thanks for joining me here.
Hey, thanks, Zeus.
Now, I'm here at the Cisco booth at an AWS event. That's almost counterintuitive to me. I think a lot of people know you as the network company, so you connect companies to the cloud, but you do much more than that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, Cisco is known for networking, but we also have provide additional services, additional products and solutions. One thing we are talking about here is our Cisco Intersight. It's a cloud operating platform. It not only provides capability to manage your on-premises infrastructure, compute, network and storage devices, but also provide visibility and insights and automation and optimization for your public cloud assets as well. So we support various public clouds.
Yeah, so I know, and you use the word on-prem and private cloud, which is interesting because we are at an AWS event, but the reality is, most of your customers are hybrid, are they not?
Absolutely. Yeah. So either they started off in the public cloud, but they are now looking at coming to on-prem, or they are on-prem today, but going into public cloud as well. So absolutely, hybrid cloud is the reality.
Yeah, and then so without you, they'd actually have two single panes of glass, I guess, right? Is that
two is you're being very generous, as in just two is very easy. But I mean, the customers we talk to, they're looking at a lot more single panes of glass, point products. So with Intersight, you are able to bring all of this together in a very consolidated, integrated manner.
And if customers are using the Intersight, with AWS and with the private cloud. If they want to then go to multi-cloud, does that help them with that as well?
It does. We support multiple public clouds, AWS, Azure, GCP, but also on-premises as in single data center, multiple data centers. So multi-cloud is pretty much the goal for Intersight.
And then people are using the word edge now.
That's right. So one of the things that we do in Intersight, so the endpoint that we manage could be UCS, could be third-party servers, irrespective of the location they are in. Intersight is able to talk to them, provide visibility, provide management capabilities and automation capabilities in one single pane. So on-premises, data center, edge, remote office, back office, public cloud, all in one place.
And I noticed you've got an app dynamics there on your shirt too. So one of the things that Cisco's been talking a lot about is full stack observability.
That's right.
Last year, Cisco announced Intersight.
Correct.
And AppD integration. Can you just give a brief overview of how that works?
Good question, Zeus. So with one of the services for Intersight is called Intersight Workload Optimizer. What it does is it's able to provide full visibility into your infrastructure, physical, virtual, hypervisors, databases, applications as well. However, Intersight and Workload Optimizer itself does not have support for all the APM tools or application layer.
Oh, yeah.
So with the integration with App Dynamics, now we are able to provide a comprehensive solution across the board by integrating with App Dynamics for a application layer all the way to the physical infrastructure all in one place.
All right, Vish, well, thanks for the quick update on that. If people want to learn more about Intersight, where can they go?
Please go to cisco.com/go/Intersight for all the cool stuff
and
there.
I'll include that URL in the YouTube description as well. So thanks again, Vish.
Hey, thanks, Zeus, for dropping by.
Thanks. All right, I'm at the Cribl stand now with CEO and co-founder of Cribl, Clint Sharp. Clint, I see here it says take control of your observability data. Observability is one of those terms in the industry that it seems like everybody's using now. So what does observability mean to you, and what does Cribl do?
Yeah, so observability is really the ability to ask and answer arbitrary questions of your data. Oftentimes that's used to try to understand, well, what is your individual performance? And so in kind of a post-digital world, I don't even interact with real humans anymore. Everything I do is via an app. And so what if I'm getting a bad experience? Am I going to end up on Twitter complaining about it? Am I likely to look at a competitor?
Not for long.
Right. Maybe not. Yeah. But observability is that ability to dive into even an individual user's performance and understand the potentially security risks, the performance of an application, and all of that involves a ton of data. And so really where Cribl sits is we help customers take control of all that data and get into the right places in the right formats and try to make it as cost effective as possible.
Yeah, and I think the problem that you're solving, that companies have today, is they have so many sources of data in so many different formats that it's funny because people use the term data lake, but what I say they typically have is a bunch of data ponds that maybe you can view through one map, but they're not connected at all, correct?
Well, that's actually what our search product that we've just made generally available is designed to solve, is this idea that the data is scattered everywhere. And interestingly enough, it's a problem that often gets created amongst our customers because we make it so easy to get data from anywhere to anywhere. So our flagship product, Stream, is what we call an observability pipeline, and that really just helps you connect anything to anything and get that data to the right places. But then the next problem you have is, well, now I have data in 4 or 5 different places and different teams want to be able to access that data. So how do I provide them one view that goes and gets access to that? And ultimately, observability is a big data challenge. Security is as well. And so we're going to be collecting massively greater quantities of data.
So the search product you just talked about was announced specifically for AWS environments.
Yeah, so it runs in AWS today. It is designed to search your S3 buckets, and we'll expand that to other cloud providers over time, and also federated search. So one of the things that search is going after is this idea that maybe that data is in Snowflake or Redshift or Athena, or maybe that data is sitting at the edge where it's never been moved. So search allows you to search the data in place no matter where the right place for that data is.
Yeah, and so I guess the theory is as companies decide to go multi-cloud then, you could actually help them search that data across the entire multi-cloud environment, correct?
We can, absolutely. Yeah. And one of the problems that we're seeing on the streaming side today is customers are going multi-cloud, and they're they're not only multi-cloud, but they're also multi-account inside of the same cloud. So larger customers have thousands of accounts, and they need to collect and bring together, for example, all the CloudTrail data and all the security and operationally relevant data into one place. And so Stream allows you to get the right data to the right place, and Search allows you to go get value out of that data no matter where you put it.
And in addition to the Search announcement, you made one other announcement at the show?
Yeah, so we're supporting a couple different things. One is we're integrating with AWS's Security Data Lake product as well, which was a main stage announcement, and we're really excited about that. And
which they announced they're the first vendor to support the standard that they announced.
Yes. Well, OCSF, we'll see how well it goes. I mean, you know, it's kind of hard to say. There is always the XKCD 14 to 15 standard sort of thing, but I think it's only a good thing if we can make it easier for customers.
Someone's got to try and standardize that, right?
So, hopefully we will this time. I mean, I'm really hopeful it's at least a vendor-neutral standard in this case. And you know, in the past it's been defined by vendors like Splunk and Elastic, and now people seem to be collaborating. So I'm more hopeful for this one than I've been in the past.
Yeah. Well, either way, I guess you'll work whether it's standardized or not. So.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that Cribl, I think, recognizes as a customer's first company is truly that the data is in whatever format it comes to, because Cisco wrote it that way, or Amazon wrote it that way, or Microsoft did, and you can't get the vendor to change that. So you have to be able to work with whatever's there, whether it's legacy enterprise data or whether it's brand new, you know, open telemetry types of formats. We recognize that customers don't get to dictate that, and so we need to meet them where they're at.
All right, Clint, and if people want to learn more about Cribl, where can they go?
Go to Cribl.io. If you'd like to try our product interactively, you can try our online sandboxes. Strongly recommend our documentation and community. We have a really great community that people can learn from one another and you know, get involved and try to understand how to use our products better.
Okay, and I'll include that link in the description. Anyways, thanks for joining me on this mini ZK tour of the AWS Expo area.
Awesome, thanks. Man. Thanks for coming by.
All right, well that concludes this mini ZK tour of the AWS Expo area. Cribl, Cisco, Fortinet, veeam, and redhat. Those are 5 companies. If you're an AWS customer, you should definitely take a look at. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm Zeus Caravalis. See you next time on a ZK Tour.